Hail to the victors valiant. Hello and welcome to On Tap Sports, the channel where we cover all the sports all the time. And today it is my Michigan Wolverines 2021 season preview for the football season. And let's just go ahead and hit it hard right away. Jim Harbaugh, what does he have to do to retain his job in 2022? Well, the answer to that is a lot. Now, I'm going to give Jim Harbaugh, and I know I haven't done this much on my channel, but I'm going to give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. I will not forget what he has accomplished at the University of Michigan. I know everybody wants to be negative, including myself most of the time, but the fact of the matter is, in 2016, he had us within a play or two against Ohio State in beating them and then going to the Big Ten championship game and potentially making it to the playoffs. And then in 2018, he of course got obliterated by Ohio State 62-29. But alas, he still had an opportunity in the last game of the season. So it's not all bad comparatively when you're looking at the Brady Hoke and the Rich Rodriguez years. But at the same time, it has not been what we paid $8 million plus to do each and every season. So Jim Harbaugh gets the contract changed a little bit, more in our favor, and so maybe a little bit more of a leash than usual, but still not much of one. What does he have to do? In my opinion, he has to do these three things. He has to at least go 10-2 on the season. That's number one. Number two is he cannot lose either of those two games to Ohio State or Michigan State. Has to beat both of them this season. It's unacceptable not to do so. I know it's going to be difficult, and there will be plenty of reasons as to why we're not going to be able to do that, but that's what he has to do. And the third thing is he has to at least compete in the Big Ten championship game. So that means if he's going to lose two of those games within the season, it needs to be to Washington, which is out of conference, or Wisconsin, which is out of division. And somehow, some way, if we lose to, say, Penn State, we have to hope that they lose twice elsewhere so that we can make that Big Ten championship game. That's what needs to be done if you're Jim Harbaugh. It's going to be a tough task. And Jim Harbaugh's failures, to me, they start with Don Brown. They start with Don Brown and not firing him when he had the opportunity to do so. Of course, Don Brown lost 62-29 to Ohio State in 2018, got absolutely torched by the speedy receivers of Ohio State, didn't have a game plan, didn't fix that game plan at halftime. It was abysmal. He's had games against Penn State where Hamler, Freiermuth, the quarterbacks at Penn State, McSorley and company, have absolutely gone off on them in that man-to-man coverage that we so stingily run over and over again up front against Wisconsin. So it hasn't just been over the top in these games against Ohio State and Penn State. Against Wisconsin, we've been getting absolutely obliterated and beat up front in the run game. They have dismantled us on defense. 56-27 in 2019 to Ohio State. 118 points in consecutive games against Ohio State in 2018 and 2019. If you're doing quick math, that is 59 points per game. That is not going to fly at the University of Michigan. So yeah, and then last season, Wisconsin bullied us again. Against Michigan State, we made Rocky Lombardi and Ricky White look like Troy Aikman and Michael Irvin. We gave up 35 points in regulation to Rutgers. Yes, I said Rutgers. And we came into the Ohio State game, the last game of the season, a 35-point underdog before that game got canceled. I repeat, a 35-point underdog in that game. Josh Gattis, in my opinion, he's the other one that needs to go. He needs to be on an absolute short leash. We have not seen speed and space like we were promised, and we have not seen any kind of creativity for the offense. It's been terrible. It's been terrible. And so I'm telling you, man, Jim Harbaugh, if he does want a chance to save his season, and he does have some poor offensive displays early on in the season, maybe looking at the Washington game or something of the sort, he needs to make a move right away to even potentially save his job. Otherwise, Josh Gattis and company is going to take the boat down with Jim. So that's what Jim Harbaugh has to do. Let's go ahead and get into it. Lofty expectations, but hey, that's where we find ourselves now through this Jim Harbaugh experiment. We're going to put the schedule on your screen right now, and let's go ahead and get over the automatic wins. Although nothing's automatic in college football, we're going to go ahead and assume that these are going to be wins in Northern Illinois, Western Michigan, and Rutgers. Now, I know Rutgers last last season gave us all that we bargained for, and they are very much improved under Greg Schiano, but the fact of the matter is they still went 3-6 last season, I think it was, and they lost 21 straight Big Ten games prior to Greg Schiano's arrival, so he can definitely improve them, but I don't know how quickly, and we should win that one. This time it's at home, so things should go differently. That's a 3-0 start to the season. Now we're going to go in order of second-tier games, third-tier games, and then the Ohio State game. Second-tier game number 1 is Nebraska. I'm going to go in order from easiest to hardest. Nebraska on October 9th. A lot of drama surrounding that Nebraska Cornhuskers team. A lot of offseason issues when you're talking about Scott Frost and company. That is a whole nother topic for a whole nother day. They were 3-5 last season. They were 5-7 in 2019. They were 4-8 in 2018, and they are 12-20 under the Scott Frost realm. That's a massive disappointment, even more so than the Jim Harbaugh experiment, obviously. So, you know, we don't have too much to cry about, I guess. We should get the win over Nebraska. That's 4 wins. Now we're looking at Maryland on November 20th. Very experienced coaching staff at Maryland. They have Dan Enos, former Cincinnati guy, former Miami Hurricane, albeit for a short stint there. They have Talia Tagovailoa. Of course, you recognize that last name. He is Tua's brother. Third in the Big Ten last season in completion percentage, 61.5%. Third in the Big Ten in yards per game at 252.8. They had 45 points against Minnesota, 35 points against Penn State, so a pretty good offense there for the Terps at times. A good receiver in Dante Demis Jr., 10 career receiving touchdowns and averages 15 yards per catch. The problem for Maryland, though, is that that defense is absolutely terrible. They gave up 32 points per game and 430 yards per game in the 2020 season. That's not going to cut it against a lot of teams. Talia can't do everything. The offense can't do everything. We're going to win that game. There's 5 wins. The 6th game that I want to talk about, October 23rd against Northwestern, and this is a problem when you're looking at the 6th game of the season, or just 6th game in general that I'm going over. And it's our 6th hardest game, and that's against Northwestern. That just speaks to how difficult our schedule actually is. Northwestern, a very good defensive team, always going to be gritty, always going to be tough-nosed. Michigan and Northwestern, over the years when they play each other, have been a grinded-out affair. It's been very, very close, and Northwestern, in my opinion, a better football team than Michigan this season, but in this contest, the home team usually edges it out, and in this case that is Michigan. I'm going to give us the win there just because we're at home. That's 6 wins. Then we have Michigan State at Michigan State on October 30th. Northwestern also a better football team than Michigan State in my opinion, but again, the home away thing is going to be the difference maker there for me. The 7th hardest game on the schedule for Michigan is Michigan State. On top of being a road game, Harbaugh of course has not fared well against Michigan State. Lost that game last year. We were 24.5 point favorites going into that game at home. So I'm telling you right now, if Jim Harbaugh loses this football game on October 30th, he should be fired on the spot. We cannot lose to Sparty this season. And I don't think we're going to. Don Brown is gone. Mike MacDonald is in. He's not going to be an idiot and leave Ricky White or other said receivers in man-to-man coverage once they're beating them over the top. He's going to make adjustments that Don Brown so stubbornly refused to do throughout his career at Michigan. We will win that game. There's 7 wins. The next toughest game on the schedule, in my opinion, is Indiana at home on November 6th. We know that Indiana went 24 straight games of losing to Michigan prior to snapping that streak last season, and they return a lot of talent. 17 returning starters on both sides of the ball for the Indiana Hoosiers, and those starters include Michael Penix Jr., at quarterback, of course, and Micah McFadden at linebacker. Ty Freifogel at receiver. He absolutely tore Michigan up last season. He tore a lot of teams up last season. Had 200 yards or more against Michigan State and Ohio State. So that's very impressive, and averaged 19.5 yards per catch. But I don't know what it is. I expect Indiana to take a step back this season. They were 6-2 last year, wins over Penn State, Michigan, and Michigan State. I just don't think they're going to be as good. We saw what their offensive production looked like last season against Ole Miss in the Outback Bowl. They lost that game 26-20. That was without Michael Penix Jr. That's what they look like without him. So he's obviously going to be healthy this season, but it just shows what they look like if he is not playing his best. And there is a very real chance against a lot of teams that he will not play his best, because they only averaged 3.3 yards per carry last season on the ground. That's going to be a lot of trouble when you're talking offensive output and a balanced system that was 12th in the Big Ten last season. That's not very good. And I think Michigan will have a better game plan against Indiana this time around. Also, we're at home. That matters a little bit. I think Michigan gets the W there. I know what you're thinking already. Whether you're an Ohio State fan, a Michigan fan, a whatever fan, you're thinking this guy is a homer. He's giving Michigan way too many wins. We still are going to get to that, okay? Versus Washington on September 11th, and you're going to think it again. I'm giving us the win here as well. Game's going to be under the lights, 8 o'clock start time. I think the crowd is going to be fired up. I think we're going to have a lot to play for in this one. Washington played just 4 games last season. They went 3-1. All of their games were at home. Their one loss was to Stanford. This, to me, is the most iffy game of the season. It's the most questionable to call. It's early in the season. It's a great matchup. Michigan early on is the favorite, but we haven't seen week 1 performances out of either team. I think we're going to get the W. I think we're going to come into that game, and it's going to be a very exciting one, back and forth, and I think Michigan gets it done late. That is 9 wins. So can we get it done? Can we get one more win, and can that one win be against Ohio State? The answer to that is a big fat no. No. The next 3 hardest games on our season, in order, in my opinion, is at Penn State, at Wisconsin, and versus Ohio State. Nothing in the Jim Harbaugh era has proven that we can win a tough road game against a likely ranked opponent in Penn State and Wisconsin, and especially not the case against Wisconsin at Camp Randall and against Penn State at Happy Valley. Likely, possibly a whiteout game. So no, we won't get the win in either of those 2 games, and I could see them getting ugly once more for Michigan, although I do hope that Mike MacDonald and the defense can make some adjustments comparatively and not just give up some BS completions the way Don Brown did. So then you go into the Ohio State game. You're a 9-2 football team, in my opinion, with a chance at a Big Ten appearance depending on what Penn State does on their season. So you're going to that game, and you do possibly still have a chance to play for the Big Ten championship. And I really do think this game's going to be a lot closer than people think. Why do I think that? What has Michigan ever done to make me think that? Well, the answer is nothing, but we have so much speed at the receiver position. Ronnie Bell, Cornelius Johnson, Mike Sanristil. I like Cade McNamara. He's good. He's a poised thrower. We have an excellent backfield. Great vision out of Hassan Haskins, Blake Corum, and Donovan Edwards. A superior Big Ten defensive line. Some studs up front, to say the least. A good linebacking core, albeit kind of slow at some slots. That's going to be an issue against Ohio State. Not so much of one against Penn State and especially Wisconsin. The problem against Ohio State, in my opinion, is going to be the fact that our weaknesses, our biggest weaknesses, are their biggest strengths, and they are going to take full advantage of that, and it's going to be a long day because of that in that regard. Our offensive line is one of our biggest weaknesses. Their defensive line is stout, stacked, big up front, athletic up front. We're in a heap of trouble in that regard, and it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Cade McNamara is going to be running for his life. We're going to have a problem finding holes, rushing lanes. I do think there will be some big plays because of the speed at receiver, and I just think we're going to be more competitive in general. We're going to want this win a little bit more than what we have in the past, and I believe a little bit more in Mike MacDonald than I have in Don Brown and what I've gone over with Don Brown. And then our other weakness, in my opinion, is the secondary, and you're going up against the very best receiving core in the entire nation. Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, who torched us years ago, and now he's even more fine-tuned and more experience. Jackson Smith and Jigba, Julian Fleming, and Marvin Harrison Jr. Those guys should take full advantage. We have Green back at cornerback. He's my least favorite, one of my least favorite players on the defense, if not my least favorite. I'm sorry if you're watching this, but he never turns his head around to make a play on the ball. He's always there in coverage, never turns his head around. Maybe he'll get better at it, I don't know, but he's been a pretty big disappointment since he's been in Ann Arbor. Brad Hawkins has been pretty so-so at the safety position, finds himself out of position many times, and when he does have a play at the ball, he doesn't usually make it. Daxton Hill will be fine. He's probably our best player on the entire roster. He'll be okay. And DJ Turner, I really like him. I really like DJ Turner. He was a 3-star coming out of high school, but I'm telling you, much more talented than that. The problem is that it's going to be tough as a 3-star corner, even if you're better than what most people think you are. It's going to be tough going against that receiving core for Ohio State. They may make him look pretty bad in this one. So Michigan will go 9-3 on the season. That is my prediction. Usual road losses to Wisconsin and Penn State, and the annual loss to Ohio State, 38-27. That score is going to be a lot closer than people think. We'll be a little bit more competitive this season, but we will go 9-3, and by my accord, I don't care what we do in the bowl game, Jim Harbaugh should lose his job at this point. We've seen where he got us. Thank you, Jim Harbaugh, for improving us from the Rich Rodriguez and the Brady Hoke years, but it is time for Michigan to take that next step moving forward, and we're ready to be great, not good. So I would like to say goodbye to Jim Harbaugh if we end up 9-3 this season with those losses that I mentioned. That's it for the Michigan season 2021 football preview. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Hit that like button if you did. Please do consider subscribing if you enjoyed the content. We'll have plenty of it all across the board, not just Michigan, college football as a whole, NFL, all that good stuff, all the sports all the time on Tap Sports. Take care, guys. God bless. Have a great rest of your Friday.